vote for him, the question becomes, what do they do next? Do they leave and don't vote for their justices of the Supreme Court? Do they sort of return to their democratic, I was going to say yearnings, but that's the wrong word, leanings, and do they then vote for Democratic justices? Or do they stay on the Republican side of the ticket and vote for the Republican justices or judicial candidates? I have no idea how that's going to play itself out. I do think there will be better Democratic turnout, which should be good for me. I do think the fact that I ran in 2014 will be a plus, given that there are 3 members of the court now who ran statewide at least once, losing before winning. So there's something to be said for that. But the short answer is I think anybody who predicts with confidence what is going to happen this year is, if they're right, it's only because they're lucky, not because they knew something that the rest of us didn't.
Do you, what's the right way to phrase this without being a kind of gotcha question? Do you feel more confident in the top of the presidential ticket this election than the top of the Democratic election or ticket 2 years ago?
I do.
I mean, 2 years ago was a rough year for Democrats, based on the top of the ticket. That's an accurate statement, isn't it?
Yeah, it became patently clear in the early August that there were going to be difficulties. Those difficulties bore themselves out. And actually, the absence of something like that this year may help me too in this regard. In 2014, and this was according to an article I read in the Plain Dealer, for whatever that is worth, a record amount of so-called independent spending was made on behalf of my opponent in that race. It stands to reason. I haven't followed every single dollar, and it's hard to because you don't have to disclose, but it stands to reason that that money was available because the 5 executive branch candidates on the other side of the ticket, 4 of them at least, had pretty clear and easy paths to victory, and some money that might have been directed to them, or might have even been in their possession already, was available, and it was diverted to an onslaught like I have never seen before in favor of my opponent. So there is an onslaught coming this year, because it always does, but I don't think it'll be to the magnitude it was in 2014, because the presidential race appears to be very competitive. And despite what people are saying now, I think the Senate race is going to be very competitive. And moreover, the other Supreme Court race is quite competitive. So I'm hoping, maybe I'm wishing, I don't know which, maybe that's the same thing, that the same volume of independent, or as I put it, so-called independent money will not be shunted into my way.
All right, last question. What do you say to the average voter out there who doesn't care anything about judicial races, and there's a bunch of them who won't even bother to vote for judges this year? What do you say to them?
I'm not sure I can say anything to them that hasn't been said over the past 100 years. Judicial fall off has been a problem for as long as the judges have been on the ballot. But what people need to know is that the courts, particularly the Supreme Court, are important to them. The Ohio Supreme Court decides important cases involving the right of injured workers to recover workers' comp, for example. The Ohio Supreme Court can make it easier or more difficult. The Ohio Supreme Court decides the ability of a person damaged by the negligence of another can make it easier or harder for that person to be made whole. If you're a partisan interested in this kind of thing, the Ohio Supreme Court is probably going to, it's not certain, but probably going to have a say in whether redistricting that will be done in 2020 is lawful. These things, some of them, of course, do kind of make the headlines, so to speak, but even those that don't have an effect on one's ability to get justice. So if you're a working person, if you're not wealthy and well-connected, you want a court that is open to your point of view and is open to reaching conclusions that might favor you, if, of course, the law and the facts are in your favor.